701 webinar. I'd like to start off by giving a huge thank you to the development staff for their work on Modo 701. It is truly a breakout release for us. It is a monster. You can see a short list of some of the enhancements and updates that we've made to 701. We've been sending out sneak peeks and already online. There will be more videos today. Today's webinar being only an hour long with some time for Q&A. We're going to focus on some specific workflows, and I'm pretty excited about this because we have Greg Brown here, who's one of our creative specialists, and he has been taking some of the new tools in 701 and creating a new workflow that I think you're going to find pretty interesting. And it really goes to speak for the architectural nature of Modo, in that every time we make an enhancement or an optimization or a new tool, it really profoundly resonates across the entire application. And that's really where the magic happens inside this application. So hopefully many of you have already seen most of, if not all of the sneak peek videos. We posted a couple this morning, including one where we were showing off navigation in a 3 billion polygon scene using some new RayGL techniques that we've developed. But let's go ahead and turn things over to Greg. Like I say, we're very excited about the release. There are huge enhancements in all areas of the application, from modeling to sculpting, animation workflows, and of course, rendering, shading, lighting. Everything is just so much better. Oh, and did we mention there's also a cute little penguin for the Linux port. The Linux port is, there's been some questions. Well, you know what? I'll answer those questions in the Q&A section. So I think we're A-OK, ready for launch. Greg, let's turn it over to you.
All right. Well, how's it going, everyone? Oh, wow. I feel so loved. All right. So what I'm going to show you today is I'm going to show you a new workflow that is enabled by many of the new features in Modo 701. And this workflow is going to allow you to actually add hundreds of millions of polygons worth of detail to your meshes inside of Modo. And furthermore, this is also going to allow you to actually transfer sculpted information from external sculpting applications like ZBrush over to Modo with an almost one-to-one transfer ratio. Actually a problem that we've been having for a long time. All artists working in 3D have big issues bringing their sculpted data from ZBrush or Modo, and guess what? 701 solves those problems. So as you can see, I have enabled my vector displacement here on my hero mesh, and vector displacements do a great job of producing broad, detailed forms. They do it very accurately. And a new feature inside of Modo enables us to actually freeze that into a multi-resolution mesh. And I'm going to come over to our paint and sculpt layout. As you can see, we used our new layout bar switcher to get over to it. And notice, we have an 8K 32-bit image map actually being loaded in as we switch between those layouts. You notice how fast that is. Now, the feature that we're going to use is convert to multi-resolution. So all I have to do is click on convert to multi-resolution, click and go ahead and set that to 5. And this is going to freeze our vector displacement into the mesh. And this doesn't have to be a vector displacement. It can be a standard displacement. And this is going to allow us to go in and correct one of the major problems that has kept us from using vector displacement in production workflows. And that problem is UV seams. And so now that our mesh is converted, you can see that we have 5 million polygons active in the scene. And I'm just going to come over and make sure we do not have our vector displacement enabled. You see it automatically disabled it for us. And we want to turn it on the GL meter so that we can actually see what kind of performance we're getting while moving around the scene. And look at this. Just want to move out here real quick. Just tumble around that. Insanity. That is completely crazy. One of the major improvements. Now, back in at that seam, I'm going to come over to the sculpt tools. I'm going to go ahead and grab the smooth brush and make sure soft filter is on. And I'm going to begin to smooth out these seams so they're gone, and we'll have a beautiful mesh. So go ahead and stroke on the surface right here, and you can see that we're just releasing that UV seam that we used to have. And this is pretty mind-blowing. We can just correct our meshes. Now, Not only does this enable us to add more detail, it saves time because we don't have to go back and forth between our external sculpting application and rebake to re-UV. If you have a little problem, just go in there and fix it. Why? Because Modo sculpting tools lets you. We can even use the new Sculpt HUD to drop down on levels to say level 2, grab the smudge brush, and correct this little edge loop right here. We have some pinching. Pull these on down, and come on back up to level 5, and we can go right back to using the smooth brush and continuing to smooth out these seams. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move over to another scene that I have, and the scene has all the UV seams painted out. And for those of you who are new to Modo, you're going to love this. Aren't those wonderful load times? Yes, nobody likes waiting a minute for a program to load. So let's open up our scene right now. And here we go. What we're loading up is a scene that I'm going to show you how to bake in high-res details on top of a multi-resolution mesh. And essentially what we're going to do is almost a double displacement. Now the scene that up has multiple 4096 maps. It has an 8K map. And look how quickly that in itself is nuts. And so as we kind of go around our mesh and check out how the seams look, they look beautiful because Modo makes it easy. And I want to come to the feet real quick to articulate one more thing about this. Now, these feet have no displacement on it. And I didn't want there to be any displacement on the feet because I wanted to be able to use edge weighting because this mesh is supposed to be animated. I want a nice clean surface along the bottom so it connects well with the ground and things of that sort. So what I did was I used Modo's attenuate brush to erase displacements around the feet. And even though I applied a displacement on top of a model with edge weighting comes right back after I erase that out. So if you think about this, it allows for a multifaceted workflow where you can leverage Modo's modeling tools in conjunction with the sculpting tools. And I think that is absolutely, completely crazy. All right, so now I'm going to show you some basics of the process that you go through to actually create these ultra high-res details. And we are in the shader tree right now. And I'm just going to go ahead and expand the material. And I'm just going to click on Pair Displacement Map. And what this is going to do is it's going to load up a displacement map that I've already put onto the surface. I'm going to show you how we do that very shortly afterwards. But first, I want to show you the quality and the results. So bang. We have a displacement map that is now being displaced on top of multi-res details. This is craziness. Now, we have a 5 million polygon mesh. That's a lot of detail. But if you want to have details like hair and clumps and strands and like that, 5 million isn't quite enough. But of course, some of Modo's older tools in conjunction with the new tools allow us to actually pump in all these high-res details without even going up to a higher level. So you don't need an insane machine to even use this workflow. You can use this on a very mid-range machine, and Modo will be able to display these details. So you see that I open up the preview window, and I'm going to zoom in here on the head. So you can see that in the previewer, we have much more detail than you see in OpenGL. The reason for this is an older feature, displacement as bump. And since our mesh doesn't have quite enough polygons to represent all these high-res, high-quality details, displacement as bump will actually render the remaining details as a bump map, so we have all these nice strands here on the surface. These are not two meshes. This is one single mesh. Absolutely freaking gorgeous. All right, so I'm going to close that down. I'm going to shut off my displacement map, and now I'm going to show you the mesh that was generated from. All right, here's my hero bake parts. I'm going to turn on that whole group. And now this is going to turn on all my different layers. See, I have like meshes that are used for seams, belts, cuffs, things of that sort. This is going to go so much further. I'm going to create a whip on this. You can follow along with me while
12 million polygons in the bottom there. Incredible.
It does say 12 million polygons, Brad. And the crazy thing about it is not just 12 million like multi-res polygons. Look at the density of the seams. I mean, this is a challenging mesh for the seam mesh right here for any program to actually create, render, model, whatever. And I'm going to use another one of the new options, and that is independent active and inactive shading, so you can actually see these other meshes. And so not only is it wireframe, 12 million polygons, it actually shows up fully. So I use the topo tools to re-topo these seams. I need to turn on geometer again so that you guys can actually see the performance. And just look at that. Absolutely freaking gorgeous. You can achieve incredibly high levels of detail. And I don't want to have everything present because all I want to show you is just the hair for now. So I'm going to show you another quick feature. Click and drag up, and we have Photoshop style layer visibility. So we can turn that off and on just by sliding on up. Another great workflow enhancement that will speed you up. And let's just zoom in here on the hair. And please note, while I have the hair mesh active right now, I also have some polygons in the background. And yeah, I'm going to be crazy. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to start the process of sculpting on top of this mesh with a crazy background mesh. All right, so I'm going to use some of the masking tools, and we're going to create another little hair clump like you see over here using the masking tools. So just come on top of your mesh with the masking paint tool, and just click and drag out a nice stroke on top of this surface. Don't need anything too specific because we're just going to fine-tune that in Modo's new quick fall-offs for our brush tools. This works with painting and sculpting, and we're going to go in and fine-tune this edge and come around to the other side and fine-tune this edge so we get a nice hair clump. And you know what? Not all hair clumps are actually perfectly sharp at the end. We're going to create a nice flat edge down there. And since our mesh is 3 million polygons, we want to kind of smooth this out a little bit. So I'm going to grab the masking smooth tool and come on top of this and just smooth that out a little bit. Grab our push tool, fall off quickly, and oops, I need to invert that. All right, so invert that mask. Now we'll only be sculpting inside the mask as opposed to outside of it. And let's just sculpt a stroke on top there. You can see it does a very good job of, displacing that surface. But now the mask is kind of getting in the way of us seeing what we're really doing. So once again, come over to the active and inactive shading options, turn off Show Piece Of Mask, and now we have a nice clean view of what we just sculpted. You can keep on sculpting away on this and refining it. Use the flatten brush, adjust the fall off, flatten on that surface, and just get a nice, crisp hair clump right in there. You see it does a beautiful, beautiful job. Smooth it out a little bit. And at this point, I'm actually kind of happy with this. I don't want to be limited by the mask itself, so we can go ahead and just clear that mask. Mask clearing, that's a big problem in every single sculpting application, and you see how quickly it got rid of it. And we can go ahead and use another one of my favorite tools in Modo, sculpting tools, that being the fold brush. And let's just make a nice tight fall off so we get crisp, clean edges. And go ahead and sculpt away here on the side. I need to turn off my invert mask. And we will define this edge of a hair clump nice and easily. And by the way, just to keep things easy, I'm not using my tablet right now, so I'm having to do this with a mouse, just to note. And so we can kind of tighten that edge up, go in and refine a nice hair clump that matches all the other areas, and of course, use any of the other tools to continue to refine, say, for instance, a nice tight edge along here. So really, really wonderful stuff available to you. Now, the next thing we're going to do is something I really should not be doing in a demo, and that is we're actually going to go through a baking process. And 3 reasons why I want to show that is A, Modo's baking is freaking awesome, especially as far as baking a displacement map. I'm going to show you why. And B, well, when you're using a workflow like this, it needs to be speedy, it needs to be quick, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So I've enabled my hair mesh. It's already enabled. I'm also going to enable a background hero mesh. And this one has no UVs. This is used to help aid the baking process. And now we actually have 13.6 polygons in our scene. And I'm going to select our primary hero mesh, go over to polygon selection mode, select one polygon after the other, L for loop, and just press the up key. We are selecting polygons on top of a multi-resolution mesh. And look how fast it is. Do not pay attention to the GL meter because it just complains when you're doing something so simple. And we have this mesh. Shift H to hide the rest of it, because when we bake this hair into our mesh, we don't want to waste time baking the entire mesh. It's just one of those things that takes too much time. So since we have it isolated, we're going to go ahead and come over to the shading tab, and we're going to enable our hair displacement that I showed you before, and we're going to bake right into this and capture the new details that we sculpted in. And so right-click on our hair, bake from object to texture, and we need to set a range, and that's going to be 16 millimeters. Now, that's not a guess. I kind of know that's already what we want. But just to articulate why, we need to set a range from how far it's going to displace from the surface out to the furthest extent, and it's just about under 60 millimeters. Now, I'm going to go ahead and run this, and while we do this, I'm going to explain to you raycast displacements. If you've ever noticed, if you export a displacement map from ZBrush, it oftentimes looks a little bit soft, a little approximated, and that's because it's not raycast. It's kind of approximated. And this is one thing that's frustrated artists for years, that why doesn't my mesh look exactly accurate? I'll talk to you about how we can solve that using vector displacements. But raycasting right inside of Modo is going to be able to save us a lot of time in going back and forth, and also improve our quality. All right, so we're just about done baking this, this map, and because otherwise this is going to take about another 10, 15 minutes to bake all the other sections, and we still need to go ahead and add middle gray across the surface, but we're going to use Modo's paint tools to go ahead and paint that in, as opposed to spending 12 minutes or so waiting for the rest of the bake to complete. All right, so that bake is now done, and oh my Lord, look at that craziness. What happened here? This is what I was talking to you about regarding raycast displacements. They do have a drawback, that 60 millimeter range. In areas like this, you end up with rays passing all the way through. You end up with all this craziness. This is something current to raycast displacements. So Modo offers you a way to correct that problem. What I'm going to do is go ahead and turn our hero meshes off, and I'm going to come down to my painter plane, and I'm going to paint directly on this surface inside of Modo, and switch this over to texture mode, come back over to shading, open up our plane, and click on our hair image map, and you see how quickly that 4096 32-bit map pops right up. And I'm going to come over to my paint. I want some viewport space, so I'm going to slam this bar over onto the side because I viewport space. And isn't that nice? We now have limited menus, and they pop up as floating menus. You can go through any of them, even the tool properties, another great workflow enhancement. And come over to the paint tools, grab the paintbrush, and if I click on the tool properties, you see that my foreground color is white, one full white. And so let's click on top of an undisplaced area on our map, and you see it automatically switch to middle gray because this is middle gray. So it samples it just like Photoshop can, and we can go ahead and begin the process of painting on top of the surface and getting rid of these displacement errors on a 32-bit 4096 image. Now, if you've ever tried to paint on a 32-bit EXR inside of Photoshop, for instance, you understand how painful this can be. And look how well Modo deals with it. We're just going to correcting things left and right. And if you notice, the rest of our UV map here, our image map, is actually black. Now, that would cause problems with our display. We have so many different other areas that do not need to be black. So we're just going to paint this on out, and just look at that. We'll just tear right through painting on top of a 4096 map. Seriously, go into Photoshop. Try and do this. It's going to hurt. And let's get it done. Oh, yeah. Isn't that wonderful? Now, as we get close to the actual area that we want as a displacement, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in and kind of refine that a little bit. I want a nice broad fall off because I want to make sure I don't leave any areas unpainted. Just something for you to note. And we'll go ahead and move up and finish refining the paint on this image map. All right, so now I painted that, and we saved ourselves like 10 minutes. Now, if you want to bake it all because you want to have an excuse to go get coffee or something, by all means, don't tell your boss about this. And you can go get yourself a cup of coffee instead. But, well, maybe you want to save time and just keep on working. So there we have it. All right, so now we're going to go ahead, and our painter plane is off. We're going to turn back on our hero mesh. And I'm going to show you the result of painting that out and the result of the displacement map that we just baked into Modo. And frankly, I really didn't think that this was going to work. I've been testing it out. This workflow really came together last week for me, and it was just a process of one thing after another, like, does this work? Does this work? And I was blown away at how many different things work. So look at the quality of that. While we're in here, there's something else I wanted to mention about vector displacement that I forgot earlier. Have you ever tried to displace an eyelid? That's displaced. How gorgeous is that? It's flawless. It's beautiful. It's perfect. All right? And we have a displacement up on top of it. All right, so I'm going to unhide the rest of my map so we can see everything. And then I'm going to open up the previewer so we can get another nice, and oh, wow, I just probably blinded you with that gigantic white screen. But don't worry, Modo's just loading up the rest of the mesh. And let's open up the window, the preview window, and we'll get a nice preview of the displacement on top of our multi-resolution mesh, and isn't that gorgeous? I mean, incredible. If you have a mid-range machine with a decent graphics card, you can take this up to a higher level. All right? And I'm going to go ahead and come over to shading, and I'm going to turn on the different displacement maps that we have, one for our scenes and also for our boots and gloves, which is actually not so much gloves, but more like sleeves and cuffs. And it's going to take a second to update this. And again, the boots and gloves layer, and that's going to be applied to our mesh as well. And blinding you guys again. You don't need eyes. You're just artists. No big deal. Okay. Now, 3, 2, 1. No? Okay, I'm going to force. No, that didn't work either. That's never worked for me. There we go. Okay, yeah, it did work. Anyway, you can see these fine seams in here. They don't show up very clearly because they're very soft in OpenGL. We can see these cuffs that have been baked in there. And say, for instance, the edges of the boots. And you can go in and just add detail after detail after detail. And I'm going to put the preview window again. And one thing I want to mention to you about the previewer right now. In the past, the previewer just did regular, just a regular old render. It didn't have GI enabled by default. Right now, we are running this render with GI by default. Any you run in Modo automatically will have GI because that's just how fast we are. And I'm out from this close-up of the head so we can take a look at all the fine details that are present throughout the rest of our mesh. And so we'll come on down here, look at those seams, that belt. Come over to the cuff. Absolutely beautiful. Now, any of these extra mesh components that you add, just like I showed you with the hair, could themselves be a multi-res mesh. And that's why I was saying that we can achieve details that are to hundreds of millions of polygons worth of detail in Modo in an efficient, because you can go through this layer by layer by layer. This is really kind of groundbreaking, all right? And so loving how good all these displacements look. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is how I went about producing these cuffs, because for this, I utilized the Topology tools. Now, I'm going to switch layouts again, but I'm going to use a different layout switcher, and this is the layout pie switcher. And I'm going to come over to our Topo editor, and you see we switch once again extremely quickly. Now, I just switched over to the Topo editor with this 5 million polygon model in our scene with all 3 of our displacement maps, 3 4096 32-bit displacement maps present. Now, we need to create a new background layer, add item mesh, and this is going to be the mesh that the blank mesh that we use for Topology. All right, so go ahead and just grab a tool like the Topology pen, Control key, click and drag out, and we can go ahead and start the process of retopoing surface details like a collar, and utilizing Modo's awesome Topology tool to do so. And just look how beautifully that constrains. Another thing I want to point out to you, Modo has context-specific keybinds now. So since we're in the Topology editor, I press the D key to subdivide. Well, the D key inside the Topo editor automatically turns on a constraint. If you're in the model view and the model layout, it won't. And so when you start using 701, start deciding what kind of context-specific keybinds you might want in different layouts and setting it up, because this is definitely speed up your workflow. Okay, and absolutely how you can produce these fine details like I showed you before. Like these seams right here were produced through this method entirely and then baked into the surface. Complete awesomeness. All right, so next I'm going to open up a new scene to show you the process of using a new Topology tool and to create the cuffs on our character. I love that logo. I love that logo. I think they did a great job of updating it. And I'm going to open up this scene that's set up Topology. What I did was I froze our sculpted mesh just to make everything perform a little bit more quickly while we're going through the Topology process. And again, look how quickly Modo loads up a very complex layered scene. And I'm going to come to my background mesh here, and I'm going to use one of Modo's new tools, the contour tool. But first, I don't like having this texture locator present here. So once again, come into your OpenGL options, visibility, turn off texture locators. And if you want to actually expand the viewport, if you want to have a whole lot of screen space, We have more options as well. So say, for instance, you're on a lap, you don't have a number pad, which I love using the number pad with Modo. We have some of these options for viewport expansion right in the viewport. Click on the contour tool. Make sure you have fast slice on, uniform span, turn automatic off, and turn your number of segments to around 30. At least that's what I found works well with this mesh. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here. And all you got to do is click and drag out this line. You know what? I'm just going to not drop it just yet. You already know what this is going to do. Yep, it's going to create a contour across the surface. And amazing how good of a job it does of constraining that. And so we'll go ahead and produce contour after contour after contour. And I want to make sure angle snap is off just because I want to be more specific and more precise. And there we go. It creates a contour right over the surface. And I want to have my action center reset. And click and drag out. And we got this beautiful contour. Look at how evenly spaced the points are. And we're just going to go straight down the side of this arm and drag out one contour after another. And make sure that they're evenly spaced. If you need to tweak it, you can. You're not locked after you make that one single move, because I want to move this further up. I want to have a nice division right through the elbow. And move on down through the arm, creating contour after contour. Now, one question is, how do you go ahead and turn this into topology? Because this is obviously a topology tool. And we want to refine on here around the sleeve base, because we want this to be very nice and precise. As I showed you before, that's really what we're going to retopo, is that sleeve cuff detail. Well, since we created all these contours in a row, everyone is selected one after the other. We can go ahead and use the bridge tool. Bridge tool has a variety of new options. We have auto connection and continuous bridge. And I'm just going to show you the continuous bridge. And click in the viewport and bang, we have a topology slapped onto the top of our surface, already constrained. But that's, we can go ahead in the viewport and we can increase the amount of topology by just dragging and forth in the viewport. You see we can tweak and tune. And I want this to be very dense because I'm going to be using this to bake onto a surface. And so I made that very dense as far as the number of segments are concerned, but it's way too long of polys, as you can see right here. So come over to the curve options. Let's go ahead and set that to 20, and we can refine that further. Still not quite right. Set it to 30, and now we've got very nice square polygons right there. And I'm going to go ahead and drop the tool. And just to show you how to produce the cut, I'm going to show you how to topologize a very large area. And I want to turn G back on again so you guys get to see the performance of this. And so there you go, running absolutely beautiful. I'm going to select these polygons. I'm going to delete them. And I'm going to select this loop of polys down here around the base of the sleeve, around the cuff, and go all the way up to this last selected polygon right here. And I am going to turn on a fall off selection. And you can see it's set to 2. And I'm going to go to model, deform, and push. And I'm just going to push this out with a fall off. I already know that it's going to be higher than 2. Click on the viewport, push this outward, and you see what we're doing is we're creating a blend, a fall off from our background mesh into this new bake section that's going to smoothly blend from the background object into this cup form. Now drop the fall off, otherwise it's going to screw everything up. I'm telling you, I kept on screwing it up while I was recording this earlier because I didn't drop the fall off. And we're going to press the Z key to do an edge extend. Click in the viewport, come over to the settings for our topology, and turn on constrained background with geometry constraint type of vector. I'm going to make it locked to the background so it can't really move too much. And Alt-X to have an action center of local. Click and drag in, and bang, we just made sure that this is constrained background. And press the Z key again. Change our constraint type to point. Click in the viewport, and then drag that on out. And see, this is going to allow us to blend that cuff into our background mesh as well. Select these two edges right here, vertex map, edge weight tool. See, we're using so many different tools in Modo, leveraging them in very interesting ways. And I want to make sure my background constraint is off now, otherwise that would just slap everything to the back. Now, I will click and drag out here, give us a weight of, say, 20%. Press Shift-Tab to smooth that. change our subdivision level to 3. You can see that we see the smoothing a little bit better. And so you can actually see this. I'm going to turn off our visualization option, select this loop, backing into our modeling tools, edge slide tool, and just slide this on back because this is going to help our displacement. And now we still aren't done because we need to do our modeling. We need to actually produce like the seam that would be present there around the cup. So select that edge, Alt-C, and now we slice that. Now I want to go ahead and increase, I'm going to go ahead and use the bevel tool and bevel that edge, increase the round level, and now we got a nice slice going right through the center. We're going to use the deform push tool again. Click on the viewport, push this in, edge weighting again, edge weight tool, click on the viewport, beautiful edge weight, and I'm just going to tweak this area so that the seam looks nice and precise. And so you can get the idea that we can produce extremely high-level details that can be baked into a background mesh, and it's based on all this sculpting that, in this case, that I did in ZBrush, because that's where this character came from initially. So you can do all your sculpting inside of Modo and add this. You can combine it with sculpting workflows, including external applications like ZBrush, and all you're going to be doing is extending your capabilities, allowing yourself to add more high-level details. This is going to allow you to produce things that nobody else is going to be able to produce in any other application out there. All right, so now I've walked you through some of these new tools and the basic idea behind this workflow because, like I said, this workflow only really came together for me last weekend. This is going to get extended much further. I'm going to show you something that I think is completely mind-blowing, and this is more performance-oriented relating to Modo. Now, I'm going to turn on the GL meter because since we're streaming this, we're going to suffer a little bit of a performance lag. And by the way, the whole time that I've been doing all this, suffering such a serious performance lag because we're actually streaming. But I'm sure you noticed it's pretty impressive nonetheless. Now, I've got this landscape scene, and look in the lower right corner. Yes, that does say 60 million polygons. You are not misreading that. And this landscape scene, you can actually go through and start using these sculpting tools through the camera viewport, all right, to sculpt on top of this surface and produce really high-quality details. And it's going to take a second to update the stroke mesh. And, I mean, you know, kind of like Louis C.K. says about cell phones, give it a second, it's going to space. Well, give it a second, it's updating 60 million polygons, all right? And it's going to update that, and then we're going to actually be able to do other crazy things with this landscape scene. I can sculpt on it, and you see 15, 16 frames per second. When I'm not recording and streaming, I get about 24 to 30, and that's obscene for 60 million polygons. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a fly-through because, as you can see, I've got our full animation set up, and I'm going to fly through our landscape, and we're flying through a canyon. We're doing this in real time. It's faster when we're not streaming. We're going through an open valley and around hills and stuff, and oh my God, it's not a landscape. It's the were-toad. It's a 60 million polygon model. Item transforms going on right now, and we're going to zoom right in to some of the finer details, and again, we're going to sculpt on it. Can you freaking believe that? So now, Modo has enabled sculpting workflows that are not possible with any other app. But again, we're not going to lock you into just using Modo. Why? Because you have other applications. Other applications have merit. We want to play nicely with other applications. So merge like your workflows in Modo with other apps. This is going to extend your capabilities so incredibly far. But again, we're not done. Is this renderable? I mean, that's a really big problem. Can you actually render this thing? So I'm going to go ahead and pull on out so we can see our whole character. Press F8, and again, like Louis C.K. said, space, give it a second. It's loading 60 million polygons into the previewer, and as you already know from Brad's earlier video, our previewer has had tremendous advancements in speed, and it's just loading up all the cache, and hey, it's coming in. It's coming in, and it's refining. And oh boy, we have 60 million polygons in the previewer. Now, I'm going to come out of the directional light. I'm not happy with this right now. This is just a crappy clay-shaded image, and it's too bright. So let's make some changes to the lighting. That's right. Updates right away. Why? Because the geometry cache has already been loaded. And since it's been loaded, we're going to navigate around in the previewer. 60 million multi-res polygons brought over from ZBrush. This was sculpted in ZBrush using HD sculpting. Then a vector displacement was calculated, brought over to Modo. Seams were cleaned up, and this model is actually not even displaceable. You can't displace this mesh with a standard displacement, and this is why using this vector displacement workflow is so awesome. There is no way you're going to get these nice, fine horns, especially on such a low-res mesh. We'll pull on out. Again, we aren't quite done. Brad, do you think you should add some subsurface scattering?
Why not?
Exactly. Exactly. Subsurface. Everybody loves subsurface. All right, so we're going to add some subsurface scattering, and I'm going to change that to, say, 50% subsurface. I'm going to leave a very high maximum depth so you guys can actually, see the effect of subsurface. All right, and it's going to go ahead and load everything back up again, and we've got this, oh my lord, it's the terrifying Windows twisting, circle of death. Is it going to make it? I don't know. Modo, you can do it. Of course Modo can do it. We've already been talking to you about how awesome Modo is right now. And 701 just kind of takes that one step further and allows you to actually interactively, as you see here in this, or you're going to see here in this viewport, do some very high-level effects, such as subsurface scattering. I'm even going to turn on reflections and blurry reflections, all sorts of other crazy things. Make adjustments to the environment lighting. Really wonderful stuff. All right, so I'm going to take a few more seconds to load this up. Now, if you want to actually work in a practical scene that's, say, like 10 million polygons, this is almost instant, but we are pushing the absolute boundaries, and there you go. We have subsurface applied to our mesh, and we're going to go ahead and modify that. Do I want green? Do I want red? Let's go with green. But we also need to make sure that another advanced feature regarding global illumination is on, and that is indirect effects subsurface. And yes, it works. Can you believe that? This is sheer insanity. And so I will click on the material. I don't like speculars. I'm going to turn those off. Reflections. And so I'm going to turn on reflections. But like I said before, we're going to turn these on with blurry. No, he doesn't have tight reflections. Yeah, he's a pretty slimy little character. But we're going to turn on blurry reflections because, really actually all reflections to a certain degree are blurry. Everything has a certain level of roughness. And you can see that we can move into the scene, use some of Modo's existing tools to go ahead and refine the render, like update under mouse. I love this just because it gives me something to do. But now I have less time to wait because they made it. We made Modo too fast. Absolutely incredible stuff. And how about we take this one quick step further? We're going to adjust our light, and we're going to go ahead and turn on physical sun, and come back to shading, come over to our environment, and make some adjustments to our environment. And we are going to go ahead and make some adjustments to turn this into physically based daylight, because this is another one of the new features inside of Modo. And so you can quickly and easily make adjustments on very high-level scenes. And so, really what I want to articulate to you about what code here is, first, this is a very small portion of 701. There's so much more that, A, we don't have time to show you, and B, we want to just go ahead and let you find it. Brad has shown you many of the things regarding, particles and some of our lighting. Just dig right into it. Start combining some of Modo's new tools and their old tools, because it's going to develop completely new workflows. One of the things I've been saying on a lot of the demos that have been going on recently is that everything in Modo plays nice with everything else in Modo, and I think what I showed you today articulates that perfectly. It does it in ways that nobody else can. And one last thing I want to show you is really where this whole process came from, and it's a couple just quick, kind of crappy images, but they do a very good job of illustrating the flow. And here we go. Let me just pull up these reference images, and this is where it all came from. What I was doing here was I retopoed a panel on top of this background mesh. I turned it to a 5 million polygon multi-res object, and I baked it in. I'm like, is this going to work along with these scenes along here? I'm like, will this work? And and I couldn't believe it. I actually have stitching along this edge, and these are actually image-based sculpting tools in Modo to make buttons. And we just move on to the next section. Not only can you use it to bake all these fine details, but you also can bake a mask between them. So you can have preset accurate masks for all your fine details, one layer on top of another on top of another. because all these items were baked in all on one. You see how they go on top of each other? Now you see these tubes. Another good point. Those are render curves. I just turned on render curves, and it actually baked render curves into my background object. Now, that was the point when I was going through this workflow. I'm like, okay, this isn't going to work. I got to try. And it did. And here's another detail image that this is where I was kind of getting really, really excited, was I started doing hard surface details. So this is going to enable a new hard surface sculpting workflow in conjunction with a program like Brush or just in Modo because, yeah, Modo can handle it. And I'm going to show you a close-up detail image of that, and look at those wonderful hard surface details in conjunction with render curves, and the, like a multi-res object, like that little panel I showed you before, is back here with all these stitching running along. Freaking mind-blowing. So I can't wait to get off this, webinar with you guys. I'm sorry, it's great talking to you and all, but I want to play around. So we're going to push this on back to Brad, and thank you so much for listening to us. Can't wait to see what you guys produce. 701 kicks some serious butt, and, well, so are you after you start using it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mr. Greg Brown. If you could just open up a couple more images there. Again, we apologize for the those who didn't get into the webinar. Well, I don't know why I'm apologizing to you who are on the webinar. I'll have to go out and share my apology. As you can see, Modo 701 is going to really unlock a lot of artistic and potential. Obviously, in an hour, we're not able to cover everything. We've been trying to get as much as possible out on the sneak peeks, which will be going live. All of those will be going live on the public site today. We're going to be posting more videos as well. But now why don't we take some time to answer some questions. I have a question before the event about pricing, and you can see the slide here that indicates that indeed Modo 701 is shipping today. Ba-bam, or boom, I guess is a shipping today after the webinar. You'll be able to go right to the store. And yes, thank you, Andre. Boom. Hey, Emma. So let's see, some other questions. Upgrade pricing, you can see it's still at $495. There will be a little promo. We'll be giving away the NPR kit with Modo 701 purchases. If you already own the NPR kit, you'll get a different discount from us, so we'll be in touch on that. For those of you who did the pre-order, the moment that Modo is available on the store, it will be populated in your account. Nothing that you'll have to do there. It'll just happen auto-magically. So there are a lot of questions that I'd like to get to. For one, let's just, Nico Harto from Finland asks, what is the biggest new feature that warrants an upgrade? Well, I guess I'd have to ask you that question because there's so many new features. It really depends on what you like. But 701, treat yourself. We've got particles. We've got audio. We've got huge enhancements to sculpting with sculpt masking. We've got convert to multi-res. You can sculpt particles. You've got an integrated dynamic system that interacts with particles. It goes on and on. There are modeling enhancements, rendering enhancements. It's the upgrade that keeps on giving. The developers, they give and hurts, and then they give some more. Let's see, what other things we have? An example of how large a scene Modo can handle and how it has been optimized. You know, on the sneak peek video that I'll push live today, we had the Ruin scene from the short film Ruin by Wes Ball. And that was, we were showing 3 billion polygons in the RAID GL viewport, 16 million in the GL view, and we were navigating that just fine. One thing I would point out in that video is that demo is just a straight-up 601 scene file loaded right into 701. There are enhancements that the user can apply to a scene, such as mesh proxies, to give an additional performance boost. So we'll have the Modo 701 tour page going live today that'll also show you some of those great new features. So I think we have nearly 60 different little video clips for you to watch later today. So it's killer stuff. A lot of questions about the system specs that we're demoing on today. It is a very nice machine. It is an HP Z workstation, 2.9 gigahertz dual 6-core Xeon processors. We do have 48 gigs of RAM. You don't need 48 gigs of RAM, but when you're streaming video and doing all the things that we're doing simultaneously, we went ahead and filled that up. The ruin scene that I demoed on the Direct Connect, I think requires about 12 gigs if you want to have that 3 billion interactive polygons happening on the fly. You know, some people asked about the graphics card to support, and in fact, it's not. RayGL is CPU bound, and that's how we're able to do 3 billion. You'd have a hard time doing 3 billion polygons on a GPU. So our CPU-assisted RayGL pumps the data through the CPU and then displays through the GPU. But really what you want there is system memory and CPU speed. Now, this graphics card that we have here is actually a gaming-level graphics card. It's an NVIDIA GeForce Titan. So not an entry-level gaming card, but a gaming card nonetheless. And that gives us great performance with with sculpting and just general viewport navigation. There is a question also about Linux. So Linux is going to be available today as well. It is in what we call public beta. It is the first time we've launched on the Linux platform. It is at feature parity with 701. So no concerns there. Everything you're used to inside of 701 works, or inside of Modo rather, will also be available in the Linux beta. We'll be updating that over time, so that is automatically added to your account, and as upgrades come in, those will automatically go in as well. Greg just pointed out that on his MacBook, he's sculpting 13.5 million polys, and that's an 8 gigabyte. The wear toad scene that you saw there, and that's 15 million polygons, so not bad for a laptop. So yes, you can definitely. That's one of the things we really try and do with Modo is not require the highest end hardware, but to scale up when you have the highest end hardware. So if you've got a medium, moderate level machine, you're still going to see performance updates in Modo 701, but it just keeps getting better the more hardware you throw at it. Let's see. There are some questions about plans for connecting Modo to Nuke, Katana, and Mari, and the answer to that is yes. We do have plans for connecting Nuke, and Katana, and Mari, and Modo. We're not going to go into the specifics yet, but we've already validated some great workflows between our applications, and I know there's a really nice video online from the Foundry showing how to use Modo and Nuke together to do set extensions. So some great stuff there. One other fine point about Linux versus other platforms. Someone was asking about feature parity, and as I say, yes, we do have feature parity in the core system. There are some like CAD loaders and whatnot that will need to be ported over, so they're not immediately available on Linux. But most of the kits just naturally work on Linux. But those that are more plug-in oriented will need to be ported, so those will not be available for Linux out of the gate. Is that correct? None of the plugins are kit. Okay, so we'll be adding them. So Derek is Bolo is correcting me. Not Bolo. What am I trying to say? Lobo. Correct. Lobot. Sorry. Bolo is the ACS character. I didn't mean to call you the fat animated character, Derek. You're the Star Wars guy. He's even got his Bolo headset on. Lobot. He's got ACS on the head. So the Python support, yes, indeed. In fact, our chief architect, Mr. Stuart Ferguson himself, completely re-implemented Python as an embedded implementation, which gives us basically the same level of access to the core APIs that you would get if you were writing a C or C++ plugin, now directly through Python. So embedded Python interpreter means it's a much deeper level of support, and it's much, much faster to execute. Huge gains there. Will service packs remain free? Yes. Free-range service packs. 100% organic, no GMOs. Yes, they'll be free. So there's also questions about stability in 701. You know, we actually spend a lot of time tracking that, and our reports show that, in fact, we've made great progress with stability from release to release, and 701 seems to be no different. So we'll keep doing that. Of course, once you get your hands on it, we'll know, won't we? So we'll cast a wider net. And as always, we are very attuned to things like stability and correctness, and we'll be chasing after anything that you find. Now, let's see. Do we have any other questions? I think I've gotten through most of what I have here on my list. Anybody, ground control here, have? How long will the NPR promo last? I believe that will be April 15th. April 15th. So that's more than 2 weeks. There you go. That's 3 weeks. Shane can do math very quickly. So 3 weeks. Let's see. So any other, what else do we have for questions, guys? The Linux version, is it for everyone? Well, it's for everyone who has Linux. So, yes, when you buy Modo, as always, as ever, on your account, you will find a place to download OS X Modo, you will find a place to download Windows Modo, and you will find a place to download the Linux Open Beta. And as always, when SPE come out or updates to the Linux beta, we'll just populate that on your account, and you can download it immediately. So no additional cost for Linux. Good times. And it is Red Hat is the distro. Yes. Right. So if you have questions about the Linux distro, it is the same distro that all Foundry products support. So you can check out that at thefoundry.co.uk. You know, there's so many great enhancements to the system, and this is one of the things that we try and stress here at the Foundry is not just chasing after huge new features, which, of course, there are many inside of 701, but also going after the refinements and just making general workflows better, going back and revisiting existing tools and making them better as well. And 701, it really encompasses all of those things. You have an incredible particle system, a rules-based particle system that allows you to create particle rigs. And one of the great things about the particle rigging system is that, like all rigging in Modo, you can create what we call assembly presets. Now, maybe you don't want to create them. You won't have to, because other people will be creating those assembly presets, and then you can share them, drag and drop them into your scene, and wire up complex particle simulations without even knowing how to do it. And if you are a complete particle wonk or a very technical-minded person and you want to create your own assemblies, you can absolutely do that, of course. And the particle system is deeply integrated into the new simulation eval system, which also means that particles and dynamics can interact with one another. That was another one of the questions we had, was how do particles interact with one another from the same emitter, different emitters, and other mesh objects in the scene. So the interesting thing there is that particles, you can have multiple particle emitters all connected to the same particle simulation. But then you can also have multiple particle simulations inside of your scene. So if you want them to interact, you want to keep your emitters inside the same particle system. And then if you want them to interact with your rigid body dynamic, you simply add a particle collider into your schematic and wire it up, and you're good. So it just connects the rigid body solver to the particle solver, and it all works. So we have some great videos showing that off that you'll have access today on the Modo 701 tour page, which is going live sometime today, maybe even in the next 5 minutes, perhaps. And it is live. Like that. We just gave birth to a microsite. Check out the Modo 701 tour. It's a very, very nice overview of the product. You'll see lots of videos up there, lots of great imagery. And, you know, that's another little quick shout-out I would deliver is one to our beta crew. They've done a great job, again, this cycle, helping us make such a wonderful product, guiding our hands, and also creating inspiring graphics and scene files, a lot of which you will have access to in the new updated content. So good times there as well. All right. Do we have additional questions? store is live. Why are you listening to me when you could be taking out your wallet right now? You want to take out your wallet. The store is live, ladies and gentlemen. Modo 701 is out. It has been released. Thomas Ingham says, already purchased. I'm going to give you a first. Mike Malak says, done. You get a second. Thomas Worth, maybe he was first because he's already running. Yay. So, hey, Victor says, lots of people celebrating us as well. So run over there, get your upgrade. Now, if you pre-ordered, your account should already be updated. You have 701 automatically added to your account. Derek is looking at me pensively, but I believe Jason has made that happen magically. If they bought 601 in the last couple of weeks, yeah, sorry, it wasn't technically a pre-order. If you bought in the free upgrade window, there also were some questions about animation improvements. Yes, there are a ton of animation improvements. Obviously, audio is a huge boost to animation. There are a bunch, a flock of new channel modifiers. There's a gaggle of killer workflow enhancements. The new animation UI is incredibly powerful and focused. The new graph editor has reached new heights. It is a phenomenally professional graph editor for massaging your keyframes. Let's not forget the workflows we showed on Direct Connect for dynamic parenting, and the pose tool with dynamic pinning. There's a new functionality called channels, so you can very quickly create a set of channels that show in your 3D viewport for keyframing, which really assists the process of creating an animation and managing your keyframe. So, you know, I think of animation actually very similarly to modeling. Rather than refining a shape, you're refining time, essentially. And so the same philosophy we have towards modeling, which is that modelers appreciate those little refinements that shave off a few clicks here and there because it amplifies over the process of a session. Well, when you're animating, it's the same thing. So things like the time haul tool, the new dynamic parenting UI, the new layout, the integration of audio, the new motion path editing, channel sets, the ability to key based on various hierarchy modes. So you can have it create keyframes for you automatically for an entire hierarchy or just down the branch or from the root of the branch and down. Really great enhancements in there that animators will deeply appreciate. I should probably read the quote from Brian Vowles on the public forum that was sent to me today, and I'm gonna, of course, I go out on a limb to try and find something quickly and won't find it. But I believe the quote was, "Hello." I have to go into my dramatic Brian Vowles reading mode. "Hello, my name is Brian Vowles, and I used to be a Maya animator." I thought that was fantastic. There are so many great animation workflows inside of Modo 701. I think we're going to see a ton of new animations coming into the forums soon. So we have 35 seconds remaining. Do we have any more questions that we need to address? So their question was regarding dynamics and bullet and where we are with 701. So that is not formed as a question. That is a statement. No, yes, dynamics. The system is entirely created internally here. The dynamic system is still leveraging the bullet library. However, a lot of the challenges we had with the bullet implementation before was actually due to the fact that we didn't have a true simulation layer inside the eval system. And so what Eric Solvey did with Recoil initially was clever and worked quite well, but wasn't integrated to the level that we really wanted. And so we created a complete dynamic simulation layer inside of the eval system of Modo, which means that you can do things like literally grab a soft body dynamics mesh and shake it around and see its result in real time. You can grab a particle system, a particle emitter, and point it at a rigid body dynamics network and knock over things. And we have some great videos on the tour that show that. So I think people will be very pleased with the performance, with the speed, and with the ease of use of dynamics inside of Modo 701, and dynamics and particles, of course. killer stuff. You know, Andy Brown did this amazing video of particle sculpting where he takes the particle simulation and bakes it down into a mesh, a 4D mesh, and then uses a background constraint modeling operator to move the particle simulation and basically conform it to the old man head, and then pushes that mesh cache back into the particle system, and now the particles are all chasing along the face of the character. So some really cool things, and it kind of speaks to what we were talking about the architecture before. When we add these things into Modo, and we do it in such a way that they all play well together, so that you can literally use any of your modeling tools to model a baked mesh cache from the particle system, patent pending. So really cool stuff happening inside of Modo 701. Like I said, massive performance gains all across the application. And, you know, some people have asked, well, how do you get those performance gains? Say, it's just nothing but hard work. It's developers going in, getting data from end users, profiling it, finding a bottleneck, and killing it. And so it's not too different from killing bugs, in fact. So if you find areas in the application that you want to see us optimize, send us data. We'll get on it. The 701, huge performance gains across the application. Also a lot of efficiency workflows added with things like mesh proxy, the ability to defer loading of images, multi-threading, EXR tiled images, for instance. And then, of course, there's just the killer features in the procedural particle engine, particle sculpting, the way that audio is integrated so beautifully, and the sound channel modifier, which allows you to wire up audio to pretty much anything in your scene. Schematic improvements, dramatic schematic improvements. I could read that. The dynamic simulation layer, the new Python interpreter, the gift from Shane of unlimited network rendering nodes. So yes, if you want to push up into the cloud, go for it. Of course, soon to be, the Linux OS support, I say soon to be released. It is released in beta form. Lots of modeling enhancements, the bridge continuous mode, the contour modeling tool, the edge bevel as much. There's just so much. Sculpt map, come on. I can't get it all. This slide doesn't even have it all. How am I supposed to say it all? So good times here on Modo 701 day. We've gone 3 minutes over. One line. There's a question about GDC. Yes, we will be at the Game Developer Conference. We'll be there demonstrating at the AMD booth. So come and see us. I believe our own, are you downtown or uptown, Greg Brown? Sidetown. Sidetown. Chi-town. Chi-town, Greg Brown will be demonstrating for us at the AMD booth. I know that Jack Greasley from the Mari team will be around as well. So some really exciting things happening here at the Foundry. Make sure you come and see us at GDC. And meanwhile, I know you're not listening, but you're off buying Modo 701. And we'll catch you on the forums, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for your time today. And let's do this thing. Boom.